Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going exploring the world of a fictional dating app called JustU2. Now, imagine if your dating app wasn't all about just swiping left and right, but really gave you a glimpse into someone's life.
Hmm. It's kind of like the difference between skimming a headline and really diving into a well-researched article.
I like that. I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, and Just You Two, this new app, seems to cater to those who really crave depth and understanding, which I think is right up your alley.
So tell me, how does JustU2 go beyond just those surface level interactions we see on so many other dating apps? What makes this one so unique?
Well, it really seamlessly blends dating with social media.
Interesting.
Think timelines, stories, posts, just like the platforms we use every day, but tailored to connecting with potential partners. Instead of just seeing a profile picture and a carefully crafted bio, you get to see someone's passions and interests, their daily life unfold.
Okay, so for someone like me who loves to really get all the information before diving into something, I imagine that seeing someone's authentic self on display must feel like a breath of fresh air compared to the often curated world of dating profiles.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what drew our couple, Aisha and James, to each other on this app.
Okay, so tell me about Aisha and James.
Well, Aisha is a photographer from Kenya, and James is an architect from London.
Okay.
They might never have crossed paths in the real world, but on Just You Two, they discovered a shared language, love for travel and capturing moments visually.
Wow. So the app facilitated a connection across continents. That reminds me of how you're always seeking new perspectives and knowledge. And here we see that thirst for discovery leading to a love connection. Tell me more about how their shared passion for photography played a role.
Well, imagine Aisha sharing these stunning photos of Kenya's landscapes and wildlife, while James is posting images of European cityscapes and these architectural wonders. They're literally seeing the world through each other's eyes before they even exchange a single message.
So it's almost like a visual dialogue, creating a sense of intimacy and understanding before they even say hello. And for someone who appreciates details, which I know you do, these visuals must offer a much richer understanding of their personalities than any text-based profile ever could.
Absolutely. They're not just telling each other about their passions, they're showing them.
Right.
It's a form of visual storytelling that bypasses the usual small talk and dives right into their shared interests. And I think that's key to building trust and authenticity right from the start.
It makes you wonder if the more traditional dating apps are missing something here. Maybe incorporating some of these social media elements could lead to more genuine connections. After all, seeing someone's authentic self, their quirks and passions on display can be incredibly compelling.
Yeah, they're really thought-provoking idea. But the success of this kind of approach really hinges on how the app itself is designed. How does Just You Two actually help facilitate those deeper interactions beyond just displaying photos and stories?
Well, that's what I'm dying to know. Our sources didn't really go into too much detail about the app's mechanics, but I'm imagining features that encourage more meaningful conversations and connections based on shared interests.
Yeah, it would have to go beyond just browsing profiles. Perhaps there are interactive prompts that spark discussions or maybe algorithms that suggest matches based on, shared values, maybe even virtual activities that allow users to connect in a more engaging way.
It's like having a virtual coffee date or museum visit, but with someone you already know you have something in common with. No more awkward first date silences or forced small talk.
Exactly, and that's a huge advantage. You're not wasting time on incompatible matches. You're diving straight into conversations with people who share your interests and passions.
And speaking of taking a leap of faith, James actually traveled all the way to Nairobi to meet Aisha after connecting on the app. What a bold move.
It really is, and it's such a testament to the connection they built through Just You Two. This wasn't just some, fleeting online thing. It was a genuine spark ignited by shared passions and nurtured by this platform that facilitated real self-expression.
That really makes you think about all the possibilities. If an app can connect two people from such different backgrounds across continents, imagine the potential for meaningful connections closer to home.
It really is fascinating to consider, especially, Just You Two seems to tap into that human desire for genuine interaction, which can be so hard to find in the online dating world.
Yeah, I'm curious, how does the app handle the transition from online to a real-life meeting? We're talking about two people from totally different cultures here. That could be intimidating.
All right, and that's where the groundwork laid online is so important. Aisha and James had already built up a rapport. They understood each other's humor. They'd explored their shared passions. So it's like starting a conversation from chapter 3 instead of chapter 1.
I love that analogy. Instead of fumbling through those initial getting to know you stages, they could dive right into deeper conversations and explore those cultural differences.
Exactly. And that's what happened. Their first meeting in Nairobi wasn't about awkward first impressions. It was about deepening that connection they already had.
Okay, so now I gotta know. What happened next? Did their virtual connection translate into, real life chemistry? Because let's be honest, sometimes those sparks just don't fly when you finally meet in person.
That's the beauty of this app. You see, JustU2 allows for a level of intimacy and understanding that you rarely get from just, swiping through profiles. And in Aisha and James's case, their online connection really did blossom into a real-world romance. They actually spent a week exploring Nairobi together and really, confirming that those shared passions and intellectual connection, it translated into genuine chemistry.
So the app kind of facilitated the initial spark, but it was those shared values and experiences that really fueled the flame.
Yeah.
So speaking of fuel, how did they keep that fire burning after they had to go back to their separate continents? Long-distance relationships are notoriously difficult.
Right. Just you two might have been the catalyst.
Yeah.
But it was really their own commitment to each other that kept them going.
Yeah.
They continued to nurture their connection through visits, shared online experiences, and constant communication about their hopes and dreams.
So it sounds like the app gave them that solid foundation to build upon, but it was their own efforts, their own willingness to invest in that relationship that made it work. It's a good reminder that technology can only take us so far. It's the human element, the commitment, the communication that really sustains a connection.
Absolutely, and I think there's a lesson there for all of us, even those not in long-distance relationships. Just you two highlights the importance of finding someone who shares your values, passions, and thirst for knowledge and new experiences. It's about connecting on that deeper level beyond the superficial.
And I imagine that's especially appealing to learners, always seeking knowledge, growth, new perspectives. What better way to expand your horizons than to share those experiences with someone who's equally curious and engaged?
I couldn't agree more. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the technical side of Just You Two. We've talked about timelines, stories, posts, but what sets these features apart from, existing social media?
I'm glad you brought that up because honestly, it all sounds a bit familiar. How does Just You Two prevent these features from becoming just another echo chamber of curated content? How does it ensure authenticity and encourage genuine interaction?
That's a great question. And I think the answer lies in the details. Imagine, instead of just passively scrolling through someone's feed, you have access to interactive prompts that spark conversation,
Yeah, like what?
like thought-provoking questions about travel or art, philosophy, anything that gets those intellectual juices flowing.
So it's not just about seeing what someone posts, it's about engaging with their thoughts and ideas. That sounds so much more stimulating than just liking a photo or leaving a comment.
Exactly. And what about algorithms that go beyond just basic demographics? Just
Yeah.
you two could connect people based on, shared values, intellectual compatibility, maybe even learning styles.
Now that's interesting. I'm picturing an app that doesn't just match you with someone who looks good in a photo, but with someone who really challenges you intellectually, who expands your worldview. That's much more appealing.
Yeah, and let's not forget about privacy controls. Imagine being able to really carefully curate what you share and with whom,
Hmm?
ensuring you feel safe and in control of your digital footprint.
That's a huge consideration for me, especially. It's reassuring to know that Just You Two is designed with those concerns in mind. It's about empowering users to define their comfort levels and to share as much or as little as they choose.
It's about creating a space where vulnerability is encouraged, but where, control and safety are paramount. Now, let's dive back into Aisha and James's story. Their initial meeting in Nairobi was obviously a success, but they were still faced with the challenges of a long-distance relationship. How did they navigate those hurdles, especially given their different cultural backgrounds?
Right. Well, as we discussed earlier, they were very committed to making it work. They nurtured their connection through frequent communication, virtual dates, and a constant dialogue about their hopes and dreams for the future. But I'm curious, how did their cultural differences enrich their relationship? Did they view those differences as obstacles or opportunities?
That's an interesting question, and I think the answer lies in their mindset.
Yeah.
Both Aisha and James approached their relationship with curiosity and openness. They were eager to learn from each other's experiences and perspectives.
So instead of letting those differences create a divide, they use them as a springboard for growth and understanding. It's like adding a whole new dimension to the learning experience, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. They weren't just learning about each other, they were learning about different cultures and different ways of seeing the world.
That's incredibly enriching, and it really speaks to the core of what it means to be a learner. It's about embracing new perspectives, expanding your horizons, challenging your assumptions.
And recognizing that the most fulfilling relationships are often the ones that push us beyond our comfort zones and introduce us to new ways of thinking and being.
Now, I can't help but wonder about the, potential downsides of this approach. Is there a risk that just you two could create unrealistic expectations? Not every connection is going to be as magical as Aisha and James's story.
That's a valid point for sure, and it highlights the importance of, approaching online dating with realism and discernment. No app can guarantee a fairy tale romance.
But maybe just you two can help to shift the focus from superficiality to substance, encourage users to connect on a deeper level, and be more intentional in their search for a meaningful relationship.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that finding a compatible partner is not just about swiping through photos. It's about engaging in those thoughtful conversations, exploring those shared values, and building that foundation of trust and understanding.
And that's a lesson we can all learn from.
Absolutely. Now let's circle back to the unique features of JustU2. We've talked about interactive prompts and sophisticated algorithms, but what about features that specifically address the needs and desires of, learners like yourself?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, imagine a feature that allows users to showcase their intellectual pursuits, like books they're reading, podcasts they're listening to, online courses they're taking.
Oh, I see. Instead of just listing hobbies, you're essentially creating a virtual bookshelf or a learning portfolio that reflects your intellectual curiosity and your passion for knowledge.
Exactly. It's a way to connect with people who, share your intellectual wavelength.
Yeah, I like that.
And what about a feature that facilitates virtual study sessions or book clubs?
Oh,
You
wow.
could connect with people who are reading the same book, discuss ideas, share insights, and even collaborate on projects.
That's amazing. It's like turning a dating app into a platform for intellectual exchange and collaborative learning. It's about finding a partner who not only shares your passions, but also challenges you to think differently.
Exactly. It's about creating a space where learning isn't just a solitary pursuit, it's a shared experience.
I like that. It sounds like just you two is not just a dating app, it's a platform for personal growth, intellectual stimulation,
Absolutely.
and the formation of these meaningful connections that really extend beyond romance.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that true compatibility goes beyond just physical attraction. It's about finding someone who shares your values, your intellectual curiosity, your desire for a life filled with learning and growth.
Now, let's shift our focus to some potential challenges that users might face on just you two. We've talked about the importance of authenticity and privacy, but what about information overload? Is there a danger of getting lost in the sea of content and losing sight of the human connection?
That's a valid concern, yeah. And it highlights the importance of mindful engagement. Just U2 offers so much information, but it's really up to the user to focus on the quality over quantity, prioritize those genuine connections over just superficial browsing. And
Right.
it's like walking into a giant library. You're surrounded by so much knowledge, but you have to pick and choose your books carefully.
Right. You have to
Yeah.
focus on the ones that resonate with you and spark your curiosity.
Exactly. And just as a librarian can guide you to the right books, perhaps just U2 could offer features that help users, navigate all that information.
Yeah, filtering content, highlighting shared interests, maybe suggesting connections based on intellectual compatibility.
Exactly. It's about striking a balance between exploration and intentionality, you know, allowing users to discover new perspectives while staying grounded in their own values and desires.
Now, let's go back to Aisha and James's story. We know they successfully navigated those initial stages of their long-distance relationship, but what about the long term? How did they sustain their connection over time?
Well, like we mentioned earlier, their commitment was really strong.
Yeah.
They continued nurturing the connection through frequent communication, virtual dates, and that constant dialogue. But I'm sure it wasn't always easy.
Yeah, exactly. Did they ever experience, like, Doubts or frustration, loneliness.
Of course, no relationship is perfect, right? And long-distance relationships especially require a unique set of skills. Perhaps Aisha and James did experience those pangs of loneliness, frustration of missing each other.
So how did they cope with those challenges? Did they develop any, like, strategies or rituals that helped them stay connected even when they were apart?
I think their approach really highlights the importance of creativity and being intentional, and also a willingness to adapt, to the demands of a long-distance relationship.
Okay.
Maybe they established regular virtual date nights, carving out that dedicated time for each other, creating a sense of anticipation and shared experience, even when they were physically apart.
Yeah, that's lovely. It's about making the effort to maintain those little rituals of connection to remind each other that they're still a priority.
Exactly. And maybe they found creative ways to, bridge the physical gap,
Mm.
sending thoughtful gifts, handwritten letters, maybe even care packages filled with, little reminders of their shared experiences and jokes.
It's about finding those tangible expressions of love that transcend the digital divide and really create a sense of closeness.
Yeah. And it's about recognizing that intimacy is not just about physical touch. It's about that emotional connection, those shared experiences, and the deep understanding of each other's hopes and dreams.
So even though they were physically separated, they were still very connected on an emotional and intellectual level. And that's the kind of connection that can withstand time and distance. But what about the practicalities of bridging the gap? Did they ever discuss plans for a future together, in the same location?
Of course, they knew that their long-distance situation wasn't sustainable forever. They talked about building a life together in a shared space where their cultural differences wouldn't be barriers, but rather enriching elements of their everyday lives.
So they had a shared vision for the future. But those conversations can be tough?
Yeah.
Did they ever disagree about the potential sacrifices involved in merging their lives?
Well, of course, decisions about where to live, their careers, family expectations, those are never simple, especially when you're dealing with two different cultures. But Aisha and James, they approached those conversations maturely and with respect. They knew that compromise and communication were essential.
Right. It's a reminder that love doesn't erase the complexities of life, but can give us the tools to navigate those complexities together.
And it's about recognizing that the most fulfilling relationships often challenge us to grow and adapt, to create a shared vision for the future.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the potential impact of just you two on the broader dating world. Do you think this app could really revolutionize the way people approach online dating?
Well, it's a great question. And I think JustU2 represents a real shift in how we think about dating.
Yeah.
It's moving away from that superficiality of quick swipes and toward a more intentional, a more authentic approach to finding love. It certainly has the potential to change things up.
I can see how that would be a welcome change for a lot of people, especially those who are tired of all the game playing and superficiality we see so much of these days.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that finding a partner is not a game, it's a journey of discovery.
Okay.
And JustU2 seems to create a space for that journey to unfold.
But let's be realistic here. Not every app can magically transform the whole dating landscape. What are some of the challenges just you two might face in the real world?
Well, the success of any dating app depends on its user base, right? If JustU2 really wants to change the game, it needs to attract users who are genuinely looking for meaningful connections.
So it's not just about building a cool app, it's about building a community too.
Exactly. And that can be hard to do. Attracting a diverse range of users while, keeping a sense of shared purpose.
Now let's talk about the potential for misuse or abuse. Any platform that encourages vulnerability is going to be susceptible to those who might exploit that. So how does just you two handle those concerns?
That's a really important point. And it highlights the need for strong safety measures and good community moderation.
Yeah.
JustU2 needs to put user safety first, providing clear guidelines, implementing ways to report abuse, and actively monitoring the platform so that people feel safe.
So creating a culture of accountability where users feel empowered to speak up and the platform takes those concerns seriously.
Exactly. And recognizing that online safety is an ongoing process,
Yeah.
requiring constant vigilance. Now, let's talk about money. How does this app generate revenue?
I was wondering about that. Is it a subscription or does it rely on ads?
It's an interesting question. It highlights the challenge of making money from an app that prioritizes quality over quantity.
Yeah.
JustU2 could maybe adopt a subscription model, offer premium features for paying members.
Yeah, that aligns with the app's values because it encourages users to be more intentional and really value that high quality experience.
Exactly. And it creates a more sustainable revenue stream than relying on ads, which can compromise privacy.
Right, although a subscription model could also create a barrier to entry for some users, which might limit the app's reach.
Right, right. Maybe they could offer different tiers with varying levels of access. That way it's still accessible to more people.
That makes sense. So finding a balance between financial sustainability and accessibility.
Exactly. Now, let's think about just you two in the future. How do you see this app evolving? What kind of impact might it have on how we approach love and relationships in this digital age?
Okay, so where do we go from here? What are some key takeaways from Aisha and James's story? What can we learn from their experience? And how can we apply those lessons to our own lives, whether we're using dating apps or just, looking for more meaningful connections in general?
Well, Aisha and James's journey really shows us how important authenticity is. In a world where everyone's trying to present this, perfect online persona, it's refreshing to see two people connect based on who they really are, their passions, and their willingness to be open and vulnerable. It reminds us that real connection begins with self-acceptance, with sharing our true selves with the world.
It's a powerful message, especially for people who feel pressure to project that perfect image online.
Absolutely. And their story also highlights the power of those shared interests.
Yeah.
Aisha and James's love for photography, for travel, wasn't just a superficial thing. It opened the door to deeper conversations and mutual understanding.
So it's about finding that common ground, right? Whether it's through hobbies or intellectual pursuits, those shared experiences can be the foundation for a really strong connection.
Exactly. And Aisha and James's journey also reminds us that meaningful connections take effort. They didn't just accidentally fall in love.
Right.
They put in the time, the energy to build a relationship that could handle the challenges they faced. It's a reminder that love isn't just a feeling, it's an action. It's a choice to nurture that connection.
So it's about being there for each other, making those small gestures that show you care even when it's hard.
Yeah, and their story also teaches us about adaptability and resilience. They faced those cultural differences, the geographical distance, but they adapted, they compromised, they found creative solutions, and they came out stronger because of it.
So it's like acknowledging that life is unpredictable
Right.
and being able to adjust to those changes, to work through those tough times is key for any relationship to grow.
Exactly. And their story gives us hope. In a world that often feels divided, Aisha and James's love story reminds us that connection is possible, that love can overcome boundaries.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, even in the middle of chaos, there's always that possibility of finding love. That human connection is so powerful.
So powerful.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a question for our listeners.
I always appreciate a thought-provoking question. What's on your mind?
If you could design the perfect dating app, one that really values authenticity and shared interest, what would it look like? What features would it have? What would make it stand out and help love really blossom? It's something to think about as you navigate your own journey of connection, in this digital age. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.